Hey everyone. Being a public servant, it's tough work. It can feel like you're running a marathon, but uphill, in the rain.
Oh, I hear you.
But you know what? Public servants, they keep going. And it's because you all make such a difference in people's lives.
That's the truth.
And that's what today's deep dive is all about.
Hmm.
It's like a little boost, some inspiration, and maybe even, some fresh tools for your journey. We've got this curated reading list, 10 books.
10 books. Wow.
Yeah. And they're chosen to help public servants like you guys to look at your work with fresh eyes, get some new ideas, especially around citizen engagement.
I think people will really like this because,
Mhm.
when we dig into these books, they're not just about big ideas.
Right.
They've got real practical advice and actual examples you can use like every day.
Exactly. It's not more work, it's just making your work better.
Right.
So, first up, imagination and innovation.
I like it.
We've all heard think outside the box.
Wow.
But this book, Solving Public Problems by Beth Novak,
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this one.
she says, forget the box entirely.
Whoa.
Right. And what's cool is she wants public servants to really use digital technology, data, even like the community's wisdom, to make better solutions.
Makes sense.
And she's got all these examples of things that worked when people did this. There's this one I loved.
Oh, tell me.
It was a city. They wanted to fix their buses and trains, public transit, but they knew they couldn't do it alone.
Right.
So they made this website, got ideas from everyone who lives there, crowdsourcing.
That's smart.
Because, think about it, the people on those buses, they know what needs fixing. So the city used all that local knowledge.
What happened?
They actually came up with a solution that worked for everyone.
See, that's what I'm talking about. It's so cool how we can like step away from doing things the same old way and actually ask the people we're serving? Tap into that knowledge. And this actually fits into something we see in a few of these books.
Oh, yeah?
It's this idea of switching from like what Mitchell Weiss calls a probability government to a possibility government. He says this in his book, We the Possibility.
Probability versus possibility. What's the difference?
So Weiss says a probability government, it's all about like not taking risks,
Oh, okay.
sticking to the rules.
Play it safe.
Exactly. But a possibility government, that's where you get creative. Take some smart risks. Don't be afraid to shake things up, to make things better. Imagine like you've got this huge problem, maybe money's tight, and the old ways just won't cut it.
In there.
Right. But that possibility mindset, it makes you ask, what if? It makes you explore things that are different, just like that city with their transit problem.
I get that.
I
It's easy to get stuck in the rules and all that and forget to even ask, what if?
Hmm. So think about your work right now. What's a challenge where that possibility government thinking could help?
It's a great question to ask yourself. And it brings us right to our next theme, citizen engagement and how we can work together.
Yeah.
It's all about changing how we think, from can we do this to what if it actually works? I like that.
It opens up so many new ways to get citizens involved, working together to solve those problems.
And when you talk about citizen engagement, Helene Landebor's book, Open Democracy, that really makes you think.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
She talks about ancient Greece, those big public meetings. Like, everyone got a say in how things were run.
Wow.
Can you imagine trying to get that many people to agree on anything these days?
That's a lot of opinions.
Right. But Landemore says it's not about copying those old systems exactly. It's more about taking those basic ideas like participation, everyone talking it out.
Makes sense.
She also talks about the Vikings in Iceland.
Vikings. Really?
Yeah, they had these gatherings called things.
Us things.
The whole community came together, made decisions, settled arguments, made laws.
So like town hall meetings, Viking style.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And it shows how powerful it is to give people a voice, let them feel like they're part of their community. And there's another book, Citizens, by John Alexander and Ariane Conrad.
Okay, I haven't read that one.
They say, for way too long, we've treated people like they just use government services instead of being active citizens, part of the community.
I see what they mean.
Right. Like customers versus citizens.
That's a big difference.
And that's something for us to think about as public servants.
Definitely.
We're not just here to provide stuff. It's about empowering people. When they feel like they're part of the solution, they'll be more involved, share ideas, even like hold us accountable.
It's a partnership.
Exactly. It's trust, shared responsibility. But to do it right, we got to be smart about how we talk to people, how we work together. And there's a book with some good advice on that, Power to the Public by Tara McGinnis and Hannah Shank.
Power to the public. I'll check that out.
They talk about this thing, public interest technology.
What's that?
Basically, it's using tech in a way that helps people, makes government services like easier to use, more effective.
Ah, got it.
They've got this example, a texting service for teenagers who are in crisis.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
By using something teens already use all the time, texting, they can connect with them in a way that just wouldn't work before.
Yeah. You got to speak their language, right?
Exactly. Meet people where they are. It's about knowing what people need and changing your approach to fit that. And sometimes that means having tough conversations, figuring out how to disagree without things blowing up.
Oh, yeah. That's a tough one.
And that's actually our next theme, bridging divides.
Oof. Yeah, that's a big one these days.
Okay, real talk, it feels like everyone's arguing all the time.
It's true.
And public servants, we're right in the middle of it.
Brought receipts.
So it's really important for us to understand why people believe what they believe.
Especially when it's so different from what we think.
Right. And Jonathan Haidt's book, The Righteous Mind, that was a game changer for me.
Oh, I've heard good things about that one.
It explained all that stuff you see on social media, those crazy arguments. Haidt goes into the psychology of it all, like those gut feelings we have.
Like our instincts.
Yeah, those instincts that shape our political beliefs, religious beliefs. It helps you see why people with different values, they just see the world differently.
That's a good point.
It's not about saying someone's right or wrong.
It's about understanding.
Exactly. It's about empathy. Trying to see where they're coming from. Only then can we actually talk to each other, even when we don't agree.
It's easier said than done, though, right? Like, how do we actually do that? Empathy when you're dealing with people who just, see things so differently.
That's where Ian Leslie's book, Conflicted, comes in.
Okay, conflicted.
He's all about how to disagree, but in a way that's actually good. He gets ideas from diplomacy, conflict resolution, all sorts of stuff. He even says that disagreeing, if you do it right, can actually help you be more creative, make progress.
Huh, interesting.
He says, don't be scared of conflict.
Yeah, I guess that's how you handle it.
Exactly. It's about learning to have those tough conversations without, everything falling apart. He even gives you, strategies to turn arguments into something you can learn from, grow from. That's super helpful for public servants, right?
Totally. Imagine you're running a public meeting, things get heated. Having those strategies, that could make a real difference.
Right. It's like turning a shouting match into a real conversation.
And that leads us to a book that's got some great advice on how to, bridge those gaps in our communities. Poles Apart by Allison Goldsworthy, Laura Osborne, and Alexander Chesterfield. They get into why we're so divided and give you actual steps to bring people together.
They say it's not about ignoring our differences.
Right.
It's about connecting with each other anyway.
Yeah.
Getting past that us versus them thing and realizing, hey, we're all in this together. We want the same things ultimately.
Yeah, finding that common ground.
And sometimes to get to that future we all want, we got to rethink what's possible, be bold.
I like it.
And that's where Erasing Institutional Bias by Tiffany Jaina and Ashley Diaz-Mejias comes in. They give you this whole plan for finding and getting rid of bias in organizations.
Bias, that's a tough one to tackle.
This book's great because it reminds us that making things fair, it's a constant effort. It's not just one training or hiring a certain number of people.
Right. It's got to be more than that.
It's making a culture where everyone feels valued, respected, like they can be themselves and use their talents.
That makes a huge difference.
Totally. So we've covered a lot of ground with these 10 books, a lot to think about.
It's true.
But before we wrap up, there's this last thought from Jeff Mulgans. Another world is possible.
Another world. I like the sound of that.
Right. With all the stuff going on in the world, climate change, inequality, all the fighting, it's easy to feel hopeless. But Mulgan's saying, no, we can change things. We have the power to make a better world.
Yeah, that's a good reminder.
He's not talking about some perfect utopia.
Yeah, gotta be realistic.
He's saying, if we work together, get creative, we can actually build a better future. And I think every public servant needs to hear that.
They really do. It's easy to lose sight of that sometimes.
So as you go back to your work, your communities, all the challenges you face every day, remember, imagination, citizen engagement, and bridging those divides. What could be possible? What steps can you take, even small ones, to make that happen?
Great questions. And I really hope these 10 books give you the inspiration and the tools you need to make a real difference.
Me too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you next time.